section that we can only take as probably being something that's beyond that. Sometimes in Jesus' ministry, he talks about the here and now, and then he talks about something beyond. And a lot of times, obviously, that's a bit prophetical, and you got to wonder how his disciples took that. I think we can realize when he starts using things like parables, more and more we read, the disciples kind of got a little mixed up at times. And they'd say, hey, what does this mean? They were thinking there's more to it when Jesus was being straightforward. But other times they may think he's being straightforward and there's more to it. And so they learn to try to listen to the best of their ability and seek understanding. And we need to be aware there are some things in Scripture we don't know. If ever you find someone who claims to know everything about Scripture, be rest assured they're not worth listening to, because it is immense. And I don't think we'll understand it all in this life. I had one professor at seminary say that I think that eternity with Christ will be like eternal seminary. We're always going to be learning more. We're always going to be discovering more of his love, his grace, his teaching, and we're never going to get tired of it. And I like that idea. That's really neat. That's really good. But Jesus prepares them for the difficulties that are ahead, but he seems to be speaking beyond. So looking at verse 16, behold, I send you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. Therefore be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. But beware of men, for they will deliver you up to councils and scourge you in their synagogues. You will be brought before governors and kings for my sake, as a testimony to them and the Gentiles. But when they deliver you, do not worry about how or what you should speak, for it will be given to you in that hour what you should speak. For it is not you who will speak, but the Spirit of your Father who speaks in you. Now we're going to stop right there before we go any further. I want to explain. He begins by using some connections with animals, connecting the situation with certain animals they would have understood and known. So I'm sending you like sheep out to wolves. Well, basically I'm sending you out as sheep are gentle, maybe irksome, but gentle, not a threat, but you're going out amongst threats. Wolves were a threatening thing. And by the way, if you'll remember, wolves then, as they are now, they hunt in packs. They're not really like mountain lions, or they're not really like bears that are solitary animals. No, they work together. A lot of the difficulties that come upon God's people are not by singular individuals, but by groups of people. Maybe not big groups, but enough that cause issue. But how are they to respond? They're not to respond with anger. Remember, Jesus is taught within the Sermon on the Mount that we're not to hate. We're not to respond with hatred, with more hatred. That doesn't mean we respond as if we are okay with wrong. It doesn't mean we respond to that wrong with ambiguity. But his response is, therefore, be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. I don't like snakes. I'm going to go ahead and be honest. I don't like snakes. Every now and then I'll watch something that's maybe animal documentary, and you'll find that one person that's, oh my goodness, look at this snake. It's the most beautiful. Oh, look at this. And I'm sitting there going, no, get rid of it. I have an issue with snakes. Now, that being said, we do need to be able to be aware of the positives of snakes. Remember and keep in mind that Mid-Eastern wisdom looks at the created order and draws information from that can be beneficial for living. Look in Proverbs, you see a lot of things about animals. You see a lot of things about life and death. You see a lot of things about the classes of how things work. And serpents are generally fairly wise, right? By that, they do not just quickly respond. They do not quickly strike. They kind of go on their way. They try to move out of the way. They try to avoid. Now, there are some snakes that don't. I'm sorry, I don't believe them when they say no snake is ever aggressive. That's false. But many of them are trying to get out of the way. So there are ways to deal with things. But notice he says, and harmless as doves. He's not comparing the response to his disciples to be like everything that serpents represent. But that wisdom, that the way to use shiftiness, not guile, but shiftiness to deal with certain things, but be harmless at the same time. Sometimes we think more in the shiftiness of harm, but we're supposed to be harmless. goes on to say, but beware of men, for they will deliver you up to councils. The idea here is probably Sanhedrins. Now, we're used to hearing the term Sanhedrin as in the Sanhedrin of Jerusalem. Actually, groups of Jews throughout the diaspora or throughout other places that was not in Israel, and throughout Israel, they had multiple Sanhedrins, but there was the Great Sanhedrin, which was in Jerusalem. That was like their supreme court. And so they had groups of courts or councils, Sanhedrins, all over, and they would render decisions in their local areas. Jesus says that you will be brought to the councils, and they will scourge you in their synagogues. You will be brought before governors and kings for my sake as a testimony to them, to the Gentiles. Right now, their focus is actually on Jews. If you'll go back in the previous verses, they're the lost sheep of Israel. So why is he bringing up Gentiles? That's why I say this seems to be looking beyond their current directive. This isn't just when you go out. You're going to be doing more at a later time. And I suspect this very possibly gave the disciples something to kind of, shake their head. Well, what is he talking about? They don't care for Gentiles. But notice Jesus is saying, you will go to Gentiles. You will stand before kings. You will stand before governors. I don't think this was in their short ministry that would be happening right here. This is looking beyond after the resurrection and the ministries the 11 would have after. And they would go to governors and kings. We know Peter did for sure. We have early church traditions of others of them being in such situations. So he's looking beyond this. Verse 19, but when they deliver you up, do not worry about how or what you should speak, for it will be given to you in that hour what you should speak. For it is not you who speak, but the Spirit of the Father who speaks in you. Now, I want us to realize that there is a direct context here. He's talking to the 12. Okay? Some of what happens to them is indicative of general response to Christianity. Some of it is specific. There are many that say, I don't need to study the Bible. God will tell me what I need to know. I will be supernaturally given the ability to speak. It's funny, they're never, ever understandable or impressive in what they say. They don't really make sense. I heard one person say, the reason you study is you give God's Spirit more to work with. And I go, you know what? I can go with that. I do love it's supposedly a story. I don't know about its veracity, but the story of a young man that said, God, tell me what I need to understand today. And he just flipped through his Bible, put his finger down. It said, Judas went and hung himself. Don't know why God wanted me to know that. Go down and do in like manner. What you're about to do quickly. Those are all scriptures, but there's context involved. We are told in Scripture to search the Scriptures. We're told in Scripture of the great examples of such as the Bereans on Paul's second missionary journey. We're supposed to know the Scriptures. This is not Jesus saying, don't study whatsoever. He's saying in those situations, the 12 would be given supernatural ability to respond. We do know, and remember, when Peter is in front of those servants, when he's waiting on the trial of Jesus, and they bombard him time after time about, Jesus, you're one of his, and he continues to respond, and almost like he had nothing to say, like he was scared. Take that, and then go after the resurrection when Peter and John are before the great Sanhedrin, and what do? They speak boldly. There's been a change in them, okay? So I don't think this means that we're going to be able to speak something we don't know. God wasn't necessarily giving much to them in regards to revelation in these speaking ventures. They're speaking what they've learned, but they're given boldness and ability by the Spirit to speak it properly in a specific way as needed. Now, I do not deny that the Spirit works within us too, but we don't have the authority that they were given. So I don't think it's the same. I do think God's Spirit sometimes helps us to know what to say based off what we've learned. I nudge here, a thought there. That's my personal opinion, but it's not revelation. It's taking from what we've learned from the revelation of God's Word. I've been in a few of those situations. And then afterwards, I've had, whether it be Elizabeth or my son or even my dad one time, how did you think of that? Not sure, because I read that somewhere about 10 years ago, but for some reason, it's not the same as the disciples. I'm not putting it on the same level. But I do think God does work within our hearts on what we learn. So as said earlier, let's give God's Spirit more to work with amongst us. this is not a reason to be lax in our studies. It's actually more of an encouragement to study more. After this, he comes down to verse 21. Now brother will deliver up brother to death, and a father his child, and children will rise up against parents and cause them to be put to death, and you will be hated by all for my name's sake. He's clearly not talking about this specific venture they're going in. He's given them the directives for their specific venture, and then he's talking futuristically. Which, by the way, they're probably still in a state of not understanding, because it implies things that they would not have guessed, because they think of a military Messiah predominantly. So this is probably going to be in the back of their minds for quite some time. But one of the things Jesus makes clear in his ministry is that there would be a continual divisiveness with regard to him. Families would be divided. Communities would be divided. Friends will be divided. And those who reject Jesus, some of which will be full of so much hate that they will seek death upon those that believe in Jesus. He goes on to say, and you will be hated by all for my name's sake. Go back to the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus talks about this, about suffering for his name's sake, for his name, and thereby his authority, his position, what he represents, what he would do. But he who endures to the end will be saved, will be delivered. When they persecute you in this city, flee to another. For assuredly I say to you, you will not have gone through the cities of Israel before the Son of Man comes. Now, it almost seems like they did. When we get into the book of Acts, they go through a lot of Israel and they do a lot of work. So what is he talking about there? It's probably more of a means of implying you're not going to finish the Jewish outreach before Jesus comes back. I think that makes sense. Jewish outreach is still going on today, and it should still go on. Jesus has talked to his disciples that they're going to go to Gentiles, but there is still always an ongoing venture to the Jewish people. I've heard some people say horrible things, not simply anti-Semitic things, but anti-biblical things. Such things as, well, they rejected Jesus, so they don't get him now. That's not what Paul says in Romans. He says there's going to be a time where there will be a great harvest amongst them. That's not what Revelation says and what John wrote in it, that one day there will be over 144,000, or over 140,000, it would be more accurate. It's 144, but I said over 144. I can't say, But there'll be 144,000 Jewish missionaries, it so seems. By the way, you count up all Christian missionaries amongst even groups we wouldn't even agree with, you come up to like maybe 50,000 in the world that we know of. Goodness, that's amazing. 144,000 Jewish witnesses. God's not done with the Jewish people. We should not stamp them off and say, well, God will just destroy them because they deserve it. No, God has a work for them. We're supposed to reach out to them as we are supposed to reach out to those of all groups. So let's not give up on the Jewish people, not by any stretch. Verse 24, a disciple, he changes from the destructive situation that his ministry broader will bring because of how people respond to it, to remember your place. A disciple is not above his teacher, nor a servant above his master. Now a disciple, mathetes, learner, was always understood to be in a lower status compared to their teacher. And by the way, the rabbi-disciple relationship was sometimes likened to father to child, or even master to slave. Now, I know that last part we very much consider anathema due to American history, but might I remind, all countries, all cultures in history, for the most part, have had slavery. We were not alone in that, and sometimes their slavery was just as bad. We got to remember it was part of history. It's not a part of history we have to like, but it's one we can learn from. Not to repeat, but also, why did they use certain of these analogies in Scripture? Because it indicated a structure. Not an agreement with that structure, but a structure. So just as a servant is not above his master, there's no slave that's above his master. There's no servant that's above their master. If you want to use the employee, there's no employee that's supposed to be above their employer. Maybe in America today, I don't know, it seems to change, but there isn't. There's supposed to be a natural hierarchy of positions that actually flows in a workable structure. If Jesus was persecuted and hated, disciple that he be like his teacher, and a servant like his master. If they have called the master of the house Beelzebub, how much more will they call those of his household? And so that analogy of disciple and teacher, slave, servant, and master is continued on. A disciple of a rabbi it was understood that they would take on not only the teaching, but a lot of the distinctives of their rabbi. We have within Jewish writing that apparently they would learn to walk like their rabbi. They would learn to talk like their rabbi. They might even learn to eat like their rabbi. Some of them took it to too much of extremes, but the idea was you weren't just learning to do what you wanted to do, you were learning to put it in your life. Well, the second part almost sounds a little odd, but a slave doesn't do that. Well, do remember the Greco-Roman slavery at the time. Not all slaves were chattel slaves with no position, no right whatsoever. Within the Greco-Roman world, there was slavery that still may be detestable by us. They had rights, they had opportunities, they had certain legal options. And in those cases, many of those slaves could make money. They could buy their freedom. They could buy their own land and still be a slave. I mean, it's just the weirdest thing from our perspective. But some of those slaves wanted to be the slave in the house because there was a lot that came with it. If it was a very important house, a senator's house, or a wealthy house, they would be given certain opportunities. But not just that, they would gain respect for working under that master. And so they would learn to not to be that master. They ain't going to do that, but they're going to act a certain way that represents that master. There's even accounts to where there would be meetings in some towns where the slave of a certain very important figure would show up, and he would be treated like that person he was representing. Wow, there was no doubt there were some slaves that were actually higher in position than freedmen. That's just different than what I expect based off of American history. And so Jesus is using that to say, you're not better than the person that is in a position of authority over you. So even though Jesus is giving them a position of authority, they're not better than him. They will have to deal with persecution. We're not given authority, but we are given responsibilities, opportunities. We are given privileges in the family of God. And likewise, we find from Paul's writings, John's writings, we are supposed to expect what? The same. We will be hated because we represent Jesus to a world of darkness. Now he uses an interesting situation where he says, if they call the master of the house Beelzebub, how much more will they call those of his household? Two things that are most notable here. Number one, Beelzebub was Lord of Flies, but it actually was a mocking rendition of Beelzebul, which was more of a lord of a high place, and it was referring to some of the ancient pagan gods. By this time, many Jews believed that these so-called pagan gods were really demons, and so they had led people astray. And I think there's an interesting concept there. That may very well be the case. When these peoples were actually doing their sacrifices, they were doing it to something that they'd had semi-contact with. But it wasn't a god. It wasn't God. It was evil. But ancient Israelites would refer to some of these Baal and such. They would refer to them in such mocking tones. And so they carried that through. But we do know that they looked at Jesus. Some of the Jewish leaders looked at Jesus and they said, "You have a demon. You are a demon-possessed man, and you're in the order of Beelzebub." They were mocking Jesus. Now, by the way, it didn't make sense. Why would Jesus be doing something against the so-called house of Beelzebub? It makes no sense. But that was a way of trying to hurt him socially. So if they're going to say that about Jesus, here comes an argument, lesser to greater. Jesus is not lesser, but what's done to an important figure may be lesser than what's done to followers, right? Because followers don't oftentimes have the strength or the position or the protection the same way. If they're going to do evil things to Jesus, are they not going to do even more to those that represent Jesus, but obviously are not Jesus? And the answer is yes, both to his apostles, but we are going to see that carry on within church history, where there is hatred towards us. And Yes, Jesus died for our sins, but some people, because they represent him, they're hated. Not just hated, their families are killed in front of them. They are abused in multiple ways. It's horrible. But we shouldn't be surprised because we represent the light of the world, and darkness doesn't want light. I'm sure we've all been around someone who's more akin to darkness. Maybe their eyes are just used to it, and you shine a light in their eyes, they can get very testy very quickly, can't they? Now, even if they just see a light afar, they may like, I don't want to deal with that. How sad is it that a lot of our culture and societies in this world are more given to darkness instead of the light of Jesus? They hate it many of the times. Some are enamored and willing to look, and amen. Others are ambivalent to it, but yet more truly hate it. I've always found it interesting about atheists, how they've got to convince me of their atheism. If you've got to convince me of your atheism, I've got to question how much of an atheist are you? Even more, if you hate God this much, why do you hate a figment of your imagination? I don't believe there are real atheists. I believe there are people so rebellious that they're willing to take on a multitude of monikers in order to demonstrate their rebellion. That's their choice. The last verse of our text, therefore do not fear them, for there is nothing covered that will not be revealed and hidden that will not be known. In other words, you're going to be taken care of. You're going to be okay. All their evil is seen, and it will be dealt with. I've heard some people say, well, Hitler really got away with things, even though in the end, all of his little empire got destroyed. He killed himself, so he didn't get to face judgment. Well, if you don't believe in God, I guess you do feel that way, but the Bible tells me that God will hold him accountable, and it's going to be horrible in that day. The same can go for Stalin, the same can go for serial killers, the same can go for corrupt officials and corrupt business people. They will answer to God too. Those who persecute God's people, they will answer for what they do. We want justice right now, but sometimes justice is a wait in progress. Read the book of Revelation. There are the martyrs, and they're crying out, when will we be avenged? But they are avenged. You read it, and it's very powerful. I remember song leader, the church I grew up at, once said, Revelation spooked him. I understand exactly where he's coming from. But I think the way we need to train ourselves is to not look at the fear that Revelation can bring us, but the joy that it's going to bring. For all the pain, all the horror that's going to happen in that time period, what is it John says? Even so, come Lord Jesus. The beauty and brightness of his coming and the greatness of his just rule, the justice that he brings, outshines all of the darkness that book tells us about within that 7-year period. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't be worried about all the evil that'll happen. We should recognize it. But don't let that eclipse your trust and love for God. Because when you look at the whole of it, it's worth it. It's kind of like someone about to go through surgery. They don't want to go through surgery. They don't want to deal with surgery. They don't want to deal with any of that. When surgery's over and they're back to, when they're all the way to 100%, it was worth it, right? Well, the end times, as we call it, that's going to be the worst and harshest surgical procedure in history. But the results will be wonderful. What can we learn from all of this? Number one, there are going to be problems. We are promised that in Scripture in a multitude of places. That shouldn't surprise us. But the way that Jesus describes it should tell us that there are people that are active in it, and our response should be to trust God. Our response should be to be very thoughtful in our thinking and how we should deal with it, and not to respond with the same hatred that's directed towards us. We don't respond in hatred. And that's hard. But also within that, we are trying to reach out. Sometimes it may call for us to, okay, we have to leave. We have to go to another spot. I think there are some Christians that say, no, you stick it out in that spot. And yet Jesus says, if you're persecuting this city, go to the next city. Sometimes you may be led to stand your ground right there. Sometimes you may be led, I'll go over here and continue work over here. They've made their decision. If you'll notice his directives for what they were supposed to do in the specific outreach, you see a broader nature of it in what says in verses 16 through 26. Next time, we'll look further in Jesus' instructions, which apparently go far beyond their initial work. Those instructions still guide us today. Any questions or comments?